I think this is not just a fad. I think Tesla's going to continue to double down on its Bitcoin investment. And you're seeing from a transaction perspective as well. But no doubt that they've made about $1 billion on paper from Bitcoin.
Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So surprise, surprise, once again we are discussing Tesla and their recent $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin. So let's get into the video. But first, hey guys, if you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. Unless you don't like free stocks, that is. And if you're in Australia, the UK or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it.
It's down 7-8% today. I'm talking about Bitcoin. Tesla's down. I don't know if that's related. I'm sure it's not. But if Bitcoin were to have one of these moves that we've seen in previous years from the high, and I don't know whether things have changed with more mass adoption and everything else going on, Dan. But just for argument's sake, let's say that it did go down significantly. Could that have a material effect on Tesla, just like the positive move had on that $1 billion number you were talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, it just adds to the volatility in the story. It's still contained $1.5 billion that they invested. But I think this is not just a fad. I think Tesla's going to continue to double down on its Bitcoin investment. And you're seeing from a transaction perspective as well. But no doubt that they've made about $1 billion on paper from Bitcoin. That's more they made from a profit in all of EV sales 2020. I think it just speaks to what we're seeing in terms of this market.
All right, we've got a lot to talk about here. So we heard there that Dan Ives believes, just ballpark, that Tesla's made around a $1 billion profit on their recent purchase of Bitcoin. Not bad. I think that builds in a pretty big safety net. A few people concerned about the volatility of Bitcoin could hurt Tesla's earnings. If there's a loss in the value of that asset below what they actually purchase it for, that will come through as a loss on their quarterly statements. If there's growth, however, won't show up. It will show up in increased asset value, but it won't show up as a profit unless, of course, Tesla sells Bitcoin, which I don't expect Tesla to be doing. Now, I could be wrong on this point. Maybe here and there they might. But at this point, Tesla is a money printing machine. They're going to have too much capital. What's the point of selling Bitcoin for a profit? What are you going to do with that money? Keep it in cash? The whole point of buying Bitcoin was to get out of cash because, as we know, cash is trash.
So what if they lost $1 billion?
Look, that continues to be the double-edged sword in terms of that risk parameters that they've put in. $1.5 billion, I think, is contained strategy in terms of most investors. But no doubt, I mean, this is something that Musk and Tesla, they're going to dive into the deep end of the pool on Bitcoin because they're not just doing it from an investment perspective, but from a transaction perspective.
Now, this is a great question from Joe here. Given the historic volatility of Bitcoin, it's a fair question to ask what if the price crashes once again. As we've seen historically, Bitcoin's general trend, although it is trending up, and that's why we're talking about a $50,000 Bitcoin today versus 6-7 years ago, it's around the $400-500 mark per Bitcoin, extreme growth. But along that way, there's been periods of extreme growth, then massive crashes, and so on and so on and so on. So while the long-term trend does tend to be up, Bitcoin has shown to be very volatile historically speaking. So the question is, what happens if the price of Bitcoin crashes? How will it impact Tesla? Well, the good thing is Tesla's purchase of Bitcoin and Elon Musk, one of the world's biggest influencers, kind of weird to use that term, but it's true. Look at his Twitter following. It's bigger than most countries. Having the support of both Tesla and Elon Musk has sent Bitcoin towards the moon and provided a huge amount of momentum. As Dan mentions, Tesla has now made approximately a $1 billion profit on their Bitcoin purchase. And in my opinion, the majority of the recent price increase is a direct and indirect result of Tesla's announcement of their purchase of Bitcoin. So Tesla has a huge built-in safety net now. Bitcoin would need to crash by 30+% to come back to the price where Tesla originally purchased at. So there's a big buffer built in there. A lot of people were concerned initially after Tesla announced his purchase of Bitcoin. Holy crap, it's so volatile. What if Bitcoin drops 20% tomorrow? So I think we can assuage some of those fears. Bitcoin would need to see a serious crash from this point. And while that's possible, I don't think it's as likely as it would have been 6 to 12 months ago, because now the floodgates are open. Tesla's now given permission to other large cap companies to start putting some Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think this is going to put upward pressure on Bitcoin. Again, it's going to be very volatile, but I think the trend, there's going to be some upward pressure, and the more companies that get on board, put some of their cash balance into Bitcoin, I think overall the more stability this will provide to Bitcoin's price. But let me be clear, I still expect it to be a fairly bumpy ride from here on out.
In our opinion, we think 3 to 5% of public companies will go down this route over the next 12 to 18 months from an investment perspective.
Interesting thoughts here from Dan Ives. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Over the next year, what percent of publicly traded companies do you think will move some of their cash balance into Bitcoin?
But until regulatory goalposts are put in, we don't think it ratchets up too much beyond that.
3 to 5%. And what's the rationale? As a speculative buy, as a hedge against the debasement of fiat currency? We had the discussion earlier, and I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, if someone decides, look, I think bonds are going up, and a corporate manager puts everything in 5-year notes, is that manipulating the bond market? So I don't. The corporate managers have a lot of reasons for doing things that might not be transactional. You think that a percentage of a corporation's assets should be in Bitcoin?
Well, I think that's going to be for the company as well as the boards to decide. But I think we've seen MicroStrategy, Tesla, Square, and some others. I think this is a trend that could become more mainstream. I think you need regulatory goalposts put in from more boards and companies to go down this route. But I think it's going to have a ripple effect in terms of what Musk and Tesla have done here.
I completely agree about the ripple effect here. There's two components to this: corporate and retail. The very fact that Tesla and Elon Musk now are behind Bitcoin has caused a lot of retail investors to take a second look at the currency. I was out to a dinner last night and Bitcoin and Tesla came up repeatedly. People couldn't stop discussing, asking questions, wondering why did they buy Bitcoin? Does it make sense? Should I buy Bitcoin? Should I buy more Bitcoin? Blah, 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 blah. So there's a new set of retail eyes taking a second look at Bitcoin. But in addition to that, because Tesla's one of the world's largest companies, everyone who's got any sense after hearing Tesla's announcement, boards, C-suites, executives, etc., everyone would have got together and asked the question, okay, why did Tesla buy Bitcoin? We know that Elon Musk is smarter than all of us combined, unless they're too dumb to realize that, in which case that company's probably going to be bankrupt pretty soon anyway. So they put their heads together and go, Elon's pretty smart, Tesla's pretty smart. Why did they buy Bitcoin? Should we buy Bitcoin? These discussions will have been going on now for a number of weeks. Of course, having the testicles, the conviction, and the courage to be one of the next movers, not everybody's going to be willing to dive into Bitcoin. But mark my words, there's going to be a domino effect here. It'll take time. There'll be a few leaders, a few pioneers, and a lot of followers. But a ton of companies, a ton of S&P 500 companies over the next 12 months will put some of their cash balance into Bitcoin. Some of them will put a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. Others will take a larger slice. And I think that this really is just the start. As I've mentioned, I won't be surprised to see Bitcoin go on and continue to grow from here. Certainly very volatile along the way, but if we see a doubling or tripling here over the next 12 or so months, I won't be surprised. Now, that is not a prediction, but I won't be surprised. As I said, the floodgates are open. There's going to be a lot of other companies now considering purchasing Bitcoin. Some of them have probably already done it, and we'll see these on filing soon. Others will be a little bit late to the party. And of course, some will steer completely clear.
But I think the bigger story is what we're seeing on blockchain, semis, and payments. This is really creating a whole new ecosystem with, Musk and Tesla definitely taking a bit mainstream, what we're seeing.
What about the Model Y? What can you tell me? Did you see this headline today that we're seeing that it's no longer listed on the company's sales webpage? Price was slashed last week. Unknown where the Model Y standard range, why it's not listed anymore. Do you have any knowledge on what's happening there, Dan?
Spoiler alert, Dan doesn't really answer this question, so I will. For those of you that don't know, Tesla recently cut prices on their Model 3 and Model Y across the board, made a huge difference, and then suddenly overnight they've deleted the Model Y standard range from their website. Maybe it's still an off-menu item. You can call up and actually order this. The question is, why would Tesla do this? Now, we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail. Tesla is currently battery cell constrained, which means it's in Tesla's best interest to be selling low-range vehicles because the same amount of battery cells will make more vehicles overall. So why would Tesla then be trying to incentivize customers to buy the longer-range variants of these vehicles? The only reason I can think of, and maybe there's some more, let me know in the comments if I haven't thought of something, The only reason I can see this making sense is if the recent price cut skewed demand so much towards those lower range models, and Tesla's concerned that they have so much demand for the low range and the long range and the performance variants, but they're also concerned that there's a chip shortage, they won't actually be able to meet that demand, there might be a little bit of a hold up. If that's the case and Tesla has to choose between selling 10,000 standard range, 10,000 long range or 10,000 performance, it makes sense for Tesla, at least temporarily, if they're concerned about a shortage of chips or supply, something along those lines, to skew the purchases towards those more profitable long range and performance variants. Now, again, I could be totally wrong here, but that's me thinking out loud. That's the most likely reason I think this is happening. That being said, we may see a little bit of a surprise in Q1 deliveries. They may be a little bit lower than expected. I don't know for sure. This is pure speculation, but don't be surprised if that's the way that things pan out.
Yeah, I mean, look, you'll continue to see some price cuts, especially in China. But if we look overall between Model 3 and Model Y, this is a company right now. It's on track to do 800,000 vehicles this year and 1 million going in 2022. And the haters will continue to hate on Tesla. But if we look at EVs, the golden age that we're going into, in our opinion, there's a $5 trillion market over the next decade. And Model Y is going to play a factor in that. We think that's strong out of the gates, especially in China.
So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. The Tesla Bitcoin saga continues, and in my opinion, there's going to be plenty more media coverage and discussion about this in the future. Before we wrap up, let me know in the comments below, do you guys think it would be a good idea for Tesla over time to actually purchase even more Bitcoin with some of their cash, or is it a little bit too risky? Let me know in the comments below. And just finally, I wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who's picked up a Tesla and Bitcoin to the Moon t-shirt. Kind of designed these as a little bit of a troll, but it's actually the best seller over the last month on the merch store. If you don't have yours and you'd like to pick one up, feel free to use the link in the description. I will be deleting these from the merch store at some point in time. And just finally, to anyone who's picked up merch from the store, feel free, if you're not too shy, to drop me a DM on Twitter or Instagram modeling your wares. I love seeing these things out and about in the wild. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan, this is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget, if you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. And if you're in Australia, the UK or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.